QST, QST, QST. This is November 7, Alpha Papa Whiskey, net control station for this evening's session of the 9H-HAM GlobalNet. Before we start the net, is there any emergency traffic for the net this evening? Hearing no traffic, this is November 7, Alpha Papa Whiskey, net control station for this evening's session of the 9H-HAM GlobalNet, originating from the Maltese Islands. The net meets every 2 weeks on Thursday at 8 p.m. Malta time to discuss topics related to amateur radio and the island's ham radio clubs. This is a directed net, and all traffic should go through net control. Special thanks to 9 Hotel 1 Sugar Fox Stephen and 9 Hotel 5 Fox Alpha Tony for making all this possible, to 9H5 Sugar Nancy Marco and 9H1GP Mark for allowing the use of the 9H1 UHF repeater, to 9H5 Yankee Victor Glenn for allowing us to use the same branding as the 9H-HAM radio Facebook page, which he administers, and to 9H1 United Sugar, or 9H1 US, Antoine, for also broadcasting the net on the 9H1DMR repeater. To join and participate, please connect to the 9H1 UHF repeater on 430.875 megahertz, with an offset of plus 7.6 megahertz and a tone of 88.5 hertz, the 9H1 DMR repeater, or to Echolink node labeled 9H1 UHF-R or 9H1 DMR-L. Listeners may also connect to the 9H-HAM room on Jitsi Meet at https://meet.jit.si/9H1HAM. Or monitor a live stream if you wish on YouTube named 9H-HAM GlobalNet, and GlobalNet is one word. Let me take a pause. The agenda for tonight's net will be check-ins, announcements, and general discussion. The discussion topic for tonight is the features and specs or specifications of the 9H1 DMR repeater presented by Antoine, 9H1 US. This is Net Control, November 7, Alpha Papa Whiskey. I will pause periodically for late check-ins. So, let's start the 9H-HAM GlobalNet. With pen in hand, I will now take check-ins from stations connected to the 9H1 UHF repeater. Please leave a 5-second pause between check-ins, and please give call signs slowly. Again, taking check-ins from stations connected to the 9H1 UHF repeater. With pen in hand, I'm ready.
This is 9 Hotel 5 Foxtrot Alpha. The name is Anthony Fennec. No traffic.
9 Hotel 1 echoes. Evening to everyone. Also to the net controller, 9H1 here.
9H1 US. Operator Antoine. No traffic. 9 Hotel 1 Sierra Fox, 9 Hotel 1 Sierra Fox, operator Stephen, no traffic.
1 Echo Santiago, good evening to everyone.
9 Hotel 5 Tango Sierra, operator name Trevor here, and Yeah, I'm with the group. No traffic.
Okay, very good. Thank you for checking in. I have 9 Hotel 5 Fox Alpha, 9 Hotel 1 Echo Sugar, 9 Hotel 1 United Sugar, United States, 9H1 Sugar Fox, and 9H5 Tango Sugar. Are there any other check-ins at this moment from coming through from the 9H1 UHF repeater? Good. We are also connected to the 9H1DMR repeater, and if you do have DMR, we are listening on talk group 2780, which is the talk group for Malta. So let me see if someone's going in through the 9H1DMR repeater. Any check-ins from 9H1DMR?
Calling in.
Okay, I'll take check-ins now from the Echo link to the 9H1 UHF repeater, 9H1 UHF-R. Please give a little pause between check-ins. Any check-ins from the Echo link and 7 APW net control.
9 Hotel 1 Foxtrot Bravo Sierra.
Okay. 9H1 FBS, any other check-ins through Echo link?
Golf Zero Bravo India Alpha G0 BIA.
Very good. Golf Zero Bravo India Alpha. I also see 9 Hotel 1 Mike Delta as well, checked in on and listening through Echo link. So, before we go to the order of business today for the net, let me see if there are any other check-ins for the net this evening.
H1 Alpha Zulu.
Sierra Fox, 9 Hotel 1 Sierra Fox, also on DMR. I'm standing by and listening.
All right, very good. This is November 7, Alpha Papa Whiskey Net Control Station for this evening's session of the 9H-HAM GlobalNet. I acknowledge 9 Hotel 1 Alpha Zulu and 9 Hotel 1, Sierra Fox. Let's see, where am I on this script? Okay. Are there any other check-ins before we start the business of the net? Go ahead.
Golf Zero Bravo India Alpha G0 BIA, and for information, 9 Hotel 1 Alpha Juliet has just become a great grandfather in Floriana, is trying to get in. This is G0 BIA.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you very much, Ian, for this 9H1 Alpha Juliet standing by.
Zero Bravo India Alpha and 9H1 Alpha Juliet. Our grandfather, congratulations. Very nice indeed. Any other check-ins at this point in time?
Grandfather.
Hotel 5 Juliet Yankee from Gozo Island, mobile.
Okay, and 9 Hotel 5 Juliet Yankee and great-grandfather. Wow, that's wonderful, amazing. All right, the order of business today for the net is, as usual, announcements. Anybody have any announcements for the net? Please come now. Give your call sign. And this is November 7, Alpha Papa Whiskey with the 9H-HAM GlobalNet.
Nine Hotel 1 Fox Bravo Sugar with an observation or announcement, whatever.
Okay, Charlie, go ahead. 9H1FBS with the net and 7APW.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Very good evening to everybody. And it seems that all of us are Europeans, so good evening. I would like to observe or draw your attention to the fact that you are not coming out on 2780. I tried coming in from there, but I can't hear anything. But I'm still monitoring, no problem. Just an observation. And guys, have a nice net. It seems that there aren't any women, so guys are coming later with more. 9H1FBS, back to net control.
Well, I did hear the beep from the repeater, and there was one station who checked in through DMR, Charlie, and I can see that the DMR repeater is linked via Echo link to 9H1UHF-R. So we'll take a look into that. And Antoine is also on hand. He's going to give a nice presentation tonight about the 9H1DMR repeater. And just like everything else, we appreciate your comment and your observation. Does anybody have any other announcements for the net this evening?
Okay, November 7, Alpha Papa Whiskey. This is 9 Hotel 1 Sierra Fox. 9 Hotel 1 FBS. 9 November 7 Alpha Papa Whiskey is coming through the DMR repeater. No problem, I can hear him there. The transmission is okay. Just, I would like to say, just for everyone that is here tonight on the net, just to remember 9 Hotel 5 Zulu Mike Jovan, 9 Hotel 5 Zulu Mike Jovan that passed away, and he was also on the first meet that we had here on the 9 Hotel HAM GlobalNet. He was here on the first net with the net that we had. He passed away. So just like to we remember him with this meeting that we are doing tonight. That's all I have to say. I'll pass the microphone back to you. November 7 Alpha Papa Whiskey from 9 Hotel 1 Sugar Fox.
I do remember him checking in. Sorry to hear about his passing away. 9 Hotel 1 Sugar Fox. Thank you for that. My tongue is getting all stuck up. I don't know why. It's only noon over here. I can't say it's in the evening or anything like that. Any other announcements or information for the net this evening?
Yes, G0BIA, I've got a snippet of information.
Hearing me because I do not have a tone. The 88.5, but maybe you are hearing me. Okay, now I am tuning my HF transmitter to operate on 3600 kilohertz, 3600 kilohertz mode amplitude modulation. And at this time, but at 9 o'clock or at 9:30, there will be another net in amplitude modulation in France. These are French nets, Fox 6, Fox 1, and so on. And when the propagation permits, I engage with them, and we start also a net. And we extreme ourselves, and we mention our equipment, vintage equipment, and which applying it in amateur radio. At the present moment, I am tuning on 3600.
This is 9 Hotel 5 Tango Sierra on repeater with the net group. I think there might have been some internet connection interruptions, and net control is not online. Can you confirm, net control? Go ahead.
Into a dipole antenna. So that is my position now.
9 Hotel 5 Tango Sugar. Fort Worth parla mandux ton kif wasal. Roger. Xaħat kien sajt li kellu xi news, xi snippets. So if anyone has that snippet news, I think you can go ahead and give it at the moment, right?
Golf Zero Bravo India Alpha. I'll just check that I've got it. 0BIA in the UK. Name's Ian. I often look at the Sky webcams, which are all over Malta. And I found out this evening that the computer server somewhere in Italy has had a fire. So all the webcams in Malta that are on Skyline webcams are off air until further notice. End of message.
Good. Golf Zero Bravo India Alpha. This is November 7 net control station for this evening's session of the 9H-HAM GlobalNet. Fortu 9H1DS, apparently you don't have a tone, and so you're not bringing up the repeater, but I could hear you from here, and you were talking about a net on 3600. So if you can put the tone on and come back again, I'll give applause. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Ian? This is November 7, Alpha Papa Whiskey, net control station for this evening's session of the 9H-HAM GlobalNet.
This is 9 Hotel 5 Tango Sierra. Trevor here. Thank you for the information on the Skyline webcams, and I went offline, probably due to physical interruptions there with the eruption of Etna. In different times, you would have been concerned that there were travel interruptions, but yeah, there's the COVID now, so let it burn. 9H5TS with the group.
Very good. Any other comments or questions for Ian?
One, Jerry. Question to.
Okay. Hi guys, this is 9H1 Jeff Alima following your net. Unfortunately, I cannot join you. And good. Keep up the good work over there, guys.
I'm usually monitoring the repeater during the day, so anybody wants to call in, and off as usual. Over to you, net controller 9H1DMR. As I have told you, I am nearly finished the transceiver on 8.4 gigahertz to receive signals which from the satellites which are orbiting around Mars. Now, and 7APW, did you copy 9H1DMR?
I have you checked in. Could someone give Fortu a call and please tell him that he doesn't have a tone, and so he's not bringing up the 9H1 UHF-R repeater. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I suppose, I can hear him from here, and whilst he's talking, I can't key up and talk on to the net through Echolink. So that's a slight issue. So let me see if I still have it. This is November 7, Alpha Papa Whiskey, net control station for this evening's session of the 9H-HAM GlobalNet. Can somebody let me know if I'm getting out on the air or not, please?
This is Kilo Mike 4, Papa Victor. Yes, you are.
Well, thank you, Sal, and good afternoon to you, and I have you checked into the net if you wish. And, okay, this is November 7, Alpha Papa Whiskey, net control station for this evening's session of the 9H-HAM GlobalNet. If someone can give Fortu a call and tell him about his tone or lack of it on the radio, I would appreciate it, and that way we can hear him, too. He's trying to pass some traffic about a net that's going on 3600 kilohertz somewhere soon, maybe about an hour from now. But I'd rather he give the details because I couldn't write them all down. Anyway, let's see. Are there any other announcements or comments for the net at this point? November 7, Alpha Papa Whiskey. Okay, hearing none, are there any late checkers for the net? Okay, I guess it's time for tonight's discussion. Tonight's discussion is the 9H1DMR repeater. Its features, its specs, maybe some discussion about DMR as well. And if you're ready, Antoine, I'll pass it to you. 9 Hotel 1 United Sugar, November 7, Alpha Papa Whiskey.
November 7 Alpha Papa Whiskey, net control. This is 9 Hotel 1 Uniform Sierra, Antoine. Good evening, everyone. So, something about the 9H1DMR repeater. The DMR repeater consists of two time slots. The 25 kilohertz is divided into two. There is time slot 1, which is 12.5 kilohertz, and there is time slot 2, which is another 12.5 kilohertz. It means that if there will be a contact on time slot 1, it can be that there will be another contact on time slot 2 without neither one conflicting with the other. So that is a good feature for the DMR. The DMR repeater as well acts as a gateway for the APRS, for the automatic packet reporting system on the Google Maps, APRS.fi. And if someone is interested on setting a radio with, obviously, with GPS. It needs to point the traffic of the packets to tow group 234999, which is the tow group allocated in the United Kingdom for the traffic of APRS. The repeater is connected to UK server, to the Brandmeister system. Tow group 91, which is static tow group, and tow group 92, which is the European tow group. It is set as a static tow group as well. The 91 is the worldwide tow group. There is the 91, tow group 91 and tow group 92 are located on time slot 1. So I give a pause so not to be timed out. And if someone have any questions, go ahead. Okay, this is 9H1 US returning. There is time slot 2, tow group 2780. This is the Malta tow group, which is connected to the network. It means that if someone is, let's say, in the United States or whatever, and wants to connect to the 9H1DMR repeater on the Maltese tow group, he needs to program tow group 2780, which is on time slot 2, and he can work through that tow group to communicate to the 9H1DMR repeater. That is on time slot 2, 2780. And as I told you before, if someone is talking on tow group 2780, tow group 2, it can be that someone else will be talking on tow group, for example, 91 worldwide on time slot 1 simultaneously, without even noticing that there is someone on the same repeater talking. Of the repeater is located in Nashar on Giovanni Cormi School. The power output is 25 watts. RF power output is 25 watts. The antenna is a collinear antenna. It is about 12 meters above the roof of the school. The repeater is a Motorola repeater. It's a commercial repeater. In fact, it has a 100% duty cycle. And if you monitor tow group 91, you can imagine that it needs to be 100% duty cycle because it never stops on tow group 91. The repeater has a cavity from Procom. It is set specifically for the input and output frequency, which the RX frequency is 430875 plus 7.6 megahertz shift, and the transmit is 438475. The color code of the repeater is color code 1. And the repeater can work even if there is a power failure. It is connected to a UPS system through a 12 volts deep cycle gel type battery. And the power will be reduced, in that case, to 15 watts. Autonomy on the battery for the repeater, according to the duty cycle that is working nowadays, it's about 3 full working days on the battery, including the internet network. something about the 9H1DMR repeater. I will pass it to you, Gary, L780W. If there is any questions, you can move down forward. L780W 9H1US.
Okay, very good, Antoine. Thank you very much for all that information. That's a very nice setup. I do have a question. So if I got into DMR and received my first DMR radio, obviously I'd have to program it, or have somebody help me to program it. And now we have two time slots, time slot 1 and time slot 2. If I wanted to, say, talk to my brother on talk group, let's say 314. When I'm programming my radio, do I program that on time slot 1 through the repeater or on time slot 2? Go ahead.
W 9H1US returning. Toll group 314 is on time slot 1, as far as I know. It's on time slot 1. So you need to program that on time slot 1. But I would suggest, Gary, if you want to talk to your brother, talk to him on toll group 2780, which is on time slot 2. Because on time slot 1, there is toll group 91 worldwide, which is active nearly all day. And toll group 2780, which is located on time slot 2, it's a quiet time slot over there. There is no activity at all because it's used for local activity at QSL.
Antoine, 9H1US on 780W, net control station for this evening's session of the 9H-HAM GlobalNet. And I haven't forgot you for two. You're still on the list. Let's, before we try to go back to 9H1 Echo Sugar, let's see if there's anybody with any questions, comments, or needs any kind of clarification at this point in time. And also, Antoine, if you have an email address that you can share with us for someone who may have questions in the future, that would be great too, but I'll leave that up to you. Does anybody have any questions or comments about the presentation on the 9H1DMR repeater? This is November 7, Alpha Papa Whiskey, net control station for this evening's session of the 9H-HAM GlobalNet.
9H1DMR with a question.
Okay, Charlie, 9H1FBS on 780W. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, okay. That was very interesting, Antoine. What sort of coverage does the repeater have from Nashar? I know Giovanni called me school because my daughter used to go there. And it's a very, very high place. What sort of coverage does the repeater have around Malta and Gozo? Back to you, Jerry.
9H1FBS, 9H1US returning. Good evening, Charlie there. Okay, so about the coverage, if you log to 9H1DMR, or look on Google or whatever for 9H1DMR, you will see all the information. And there was even a study on the coverage of the repeater. You can see the pattern, the radiation pattern of the repeater. It is almost reachable from all of Malta. But as you know, because of the terrain of Malta, with hills and everything, there is the negative places. like other repeaters. But I say 75% of Malta has a good coverage, Charlie. And there is a page, a Facebook page on the 9H1DMR repeater, which there is all the information on it. And there is the email contact, there is my contact, and there is my brother's contact email as well. By the way, the repeater owners are me, 9H1US, and my brother, 9H1DH. I am the repeater keeper. 9H1FPS, 9H1US.
Copied and understood. No Facebook for me, but I'll try to find it some other way. Thank you, Jerry.
Very good, Charlie. We can find it together. Just remind me because I forget. I'm getting old. All right. I also have a question from Kilo Mike 4, Papa Victor, and the net. Go ahead, Sal, and 7APW.
APW from KM4PPD. Let me first thank you for picking me up, Jerry, on this net, and thank you, Joe, NH1, Juliet, Lima, who picked me up yesterday, and he told me about the ER's net today. I did get the talk as far as your talk group, 27830, but I did plug that in color code 2, but I'm still getting talk group 91, which is worldwide. So my question to you is, do I have to put this on any particular host? I don't understand. Maybe I got a different host on there. Over.
Confirm you have the right talk group. The talk group is 2780. 4 numbers. I think I heard you say 27830, but it's 2780. Is that correct, Sal?
Okay, so N78 PW from KM4PPD. I think I had 27830 in there. Maybe I misunderstood him. If it's just 2780, then that may be the case. But am I right or wrong? As far as the host group, it could be anywhere. Over.
For example, I use a hotspot, and so whatever settings I use for all the other talk groups on my hotspot, I use for that one as well, except that the talk group is 2780, which is listed as Malta, Mike Alpha, Lima, Tango Alpha, in all the talk group lists. So, you create, when you can tell your radio to go to a new talk group and either punch in or find 2780. Does that answer the question? Sal, go ahead.
978 at 97 Alpha Papa Whiskey from KM4PPD. Yeah, roger that. I guess I got the wrong talk group in there, and it's so I'll just check it in there. Thank you so much for answering my question. And thank you so much, Joe, and thank you for having me on the net. This is KM4PPD, return back to net control.
Yeah, you bet, Sal. You're always welcome. Kilo Mike 4, Papa Victor, and the group. November 7, Alpha Papa Whiskey Net Control Station for this evening's session of the 9H-HAM Global Net. Let's see. Are there any other questions for Antoine? 9 Hotel 1 United Sugar. This is N7APW.
G0 BIA saying Alela Tayad and pulling out. A very good night to everybody. From G0 BIA.
Okay, Ian, have a good night. Thank you for checking in. Are there any late check-ins for the net? Okay, let's see. 9 Hotel Echo Sugar. What happened before was that you didn't have a tone on your transmission, but I obviously could hear you. So let me try again. 9 Hotel 1 Echo Sugar, November 7 Alpha Papa Whiskey. Okay, I thought I heard somebody check in again. Are there any other late check-ins for the net this evening? The 9H1FA, go ahead, please. Thank you. Go ahead, Antoine.
9H5 Foxtrot Alpha 9H1 US. Okay, Anthony. So, about your first question was about the color code. Yes. The color code that uses 9H1DMR is color code 1. So what is color code in DMR? To make it simple for now, on analog you use the subaudible tones, the CTCSS. On the digital there is no subaudible tones. There is the color codes. We call them color codes. So basically that is the color code. And about if you program a radio with the talk groups on 9H1DMR frequency and you want to use another repeater instead of 9H1DMR, let's say repeater from Sicily, you have to program everything into another zone. Example, if you program 9H1DMR repeater Malta with the talk groups of the 9H1DMR repeater in zone 1 and you want to program another repeater in Sicily with the talk groups of that particular repeater, you need to program in zone 2, in another different zone. And if you have a radio with the roaming, because most of the radios today are doing the roaming, you can just talk on the 9H1DMR repeater, and if that repeater is out of sight, it will automatically change to the other repeater if there is the coverage of the other repeater. Like you are using a mobile phone, Anthony. When you are using a mobile phone, you don't know on which repeater you are connected, and it starts roaming the repeaters from one repeater to another seamlessly. Let's see if I have answered your question, 9H5SA, 9H1US. 912. Sorry, November 7 Alpha Whiskey and 9H1US. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that. Yeah. Okay, I can understand what the color code means now. I mean, the analysis of its own. Okay, so who decides? I mean, obviously, not all DMR repeaters around the globe will be relaying the same store group. Is there any official online database which I could access to actually know which store groups a particular repeater is connected to? So that if I'm going abroad, I can say, okay, that repeater or these store groups, I can program those into a new zone on my handheld DMR radio. Is there some official source I could get this information from? Back to net control and 9H1 Hotel. 9H5SA with the permission of 7APW. This is 9H1US returning. Okay, Anthony. Yes. The decision of the tow group is in the hands of the repeater operator. There is a host line and a dashboard where you can set and decide which tow groups you put and which tow groups you put on static and which tow groups you put on dynamic. Static tow groups, it's like the 91 worldwide and the 92 Europe. Those are on static. It means it is always on. And there are the tow groups that are dynamic, which are on demand. You need to press the PTT on that particular tow group to activate the tow group, and it will be active for about 10 to 15 minutes. I don't know exactly. I think it's about 15 minutes. And after that 15 minutes, if you don't use it anymore or press the PTT, that tow group will go on standby, go to sleep, let's say. And yes, on the Brandmeister system, if you set a tow group on your radio, let's say 314, if the repeater is not programmed for that tow group, it still can work with tow group 314, because the repeater knows that you are transmitting on tow group 314, and it will put that tow group automatically active for 15 minutes. And 9H5SA, 9H1US. November 9H1US, the permission of November 7 Alpha Whiskey. Thank you very much. Yes, okay, that clarifies something. I'm taking some notes actually while you're talking. I'll go back and do some further reading as well. Thanks. The DMR is something I wish to spend more time on, and it's still rather fairly new to me. So thank you very much, and I appreciate that. I might get in contact with you if I via email some other time as well. But, thanks, Antoine. Back to net control, November 7, Alpha, Papa Whiskey 9, Hotel 5, Foxtrot, Alpha.
Okay, very good. 9H5FA, 9H1US. This is N7APW net control station for this evening's session of the 9H-HAM GlobalNet. Yeah, I can tell you from personal experience that setting up DMR could be challenging, and if you have somebody who can enlighten you a little, it would make it a lot more fun. But it could be challenging because when the radio shows up, it knows nothing, and you have to teach it everything. The way I look at all this is I have to put an analogy to it. For example, the color code. We're all familiar with subaudible tones, CTCSS, and that's what really that is. The folders, and then I went to the PC and said folders and files. And so if I want to set up talk groups when I'm in Sicily for the repeater, I create a folder for Sicily, and then I create the files with the talk groups that point to that Sicilian repeater, its frequency, its whatever, its offset, and everything else, and that's the folder for Sicily. And then when I'm on the Malta DMR repeater, I open the folder for Malta and go through the talk groups that I set up there and use them because I want to use the Malta repeater. And I have that system in my radio, and so when I'm traveling down to, let's say, Denver, which is about 300 miles away, when I get to Denver, I just find the zone which equals the folder that says Denver. And then when I open the files in that folder or the zone, all those settings are going to work with the Denver server alone, not server but repeater, and that keeps me straight. Because if they were all mixed together, I'm too old for that. I've said enough. This is November 7, Alpha Papa Whiskey, net control station for this evening session of the 9H-HAM GlobalNet. Any other questions or comments for Antoine, or anybody have anything else for the net before we call it a day? But I'd like to remind everybody that right after the net closes, the amateur radio newsline will be broadcast on the YouTube page for the 9H-HAM GlobalNet. So, this is N7APW standing by.
Okay, November 7, Alpha Papa Whiskey from 9 Hotel 1 Sierra Fox. Firstly, I would like to thank Antoine, 9 Hotel 1 US, for tonight's discussion on the DMR repeater and how it works. And also, I also tonight had someone would like to say hello to everybody from 9 Hotel 5 Lima Romeo, Manuel, 9 Hotel 5 Lima Radio, Manuel. I wanted to say greetings to everyone this evening on this 9 Hotel HAM net, and but he's busy with work, so he cannot come on the radio at the present time because of his work. He's very busy there, but he just wanted me to send his greetings to everybody. So once again, thank you, Antoine, for tonight's discussion, and I will pass the microphone back to you, Jerry. And also there was a comment from 9 Hotel 5 Queen Bravo, Mario. He was asking us if it would be also nice if you would be also present here on Jitsi, so everyone can see your face there, and also put the voice to the picture there, and everyone can see also on here on Jitsi also there, Jerry. So that's just another comment from Mario there, 9 Hotel 5 Queen Bravo. I'll pass the microphone back to you, Jerry, and thank you also once again for tonight's net. November 7, Alpha Papa Whiskey from 9 Hotel 1 Sierra Fox.
Very good. 9H1 Sugar Fox, November 7 Alpha Papa Whiskey. I have checked in 9H1 Lima Radio. And if somebody wants to see my ugly face, please cover the mirrors first, and then I'll turn the camera on. Okay, very good. Well, let's see. I don't think there's any additional traffic or comments for the net, but before I go, let me see if 9 Hotel 1 Echo Sugar is back. 42, are you back? And do you have a tone on your radio? November 7 Alpha Papa Whiskey. No traffic or comments for the net. This is N7APW, Jerry, net control station for this evening's session of the 9H1 Global Net. There were, according to my number of fingers, and I ran out, 17 check-ins, which is a nice check-in for tonight's net. I'd like to thank the repeater trustees for the 9H1 UHF and the 9H1DMR repeaters for the use of their repeaters. This public service net meets every 2 weeks on Thursday night at 8 p.m. Malta time. It will not change after the Malta goes to summertime, so it will always be at 8 p.m. local time. I'd like to thank everybody who has checked in tonight's net. I'd like to return the use of this repeater and all linked repeaters back to normal amateur use. This is N7APW, thanking everybody for checking in. 73s, and good evening. And don't forget the Newsline report will be running on YouTube right after this net. Thank you very much. Good evening.
From Amateur Radio Newsline Report number 2261, these are the Ham Nation headlines for Wednesday, March 3rd, 2021. Ham radio operators are partnering with the U.S. Geological Survey in helping to report real-time details about seismic activity and earthquake damage, especially when other means of communication have gone offline.
They're using the radio email platform WinLink to carry data from the survey's questionnaire-based system known as DiFi, for Did You Feel It? ARES members transmit the DiFi reports even if an earthquake has knocked down the region's internet. Receiving stations outside the earthquake region receive the data contained in the WinLink transmission and forward it to the USGS via their own internet access. The DiFi system gathers macro-seismic intensity data, allowing scientists to more accurately pinpoint where people felt the earthquake and at what intensity. An estimated 90% of DiFi reports are sent by observers within the first hour of an earthquake. Hams can transmit the reports over VHF, HF, and even local high-speed mesh networks, many of which have the ability to interface with satellite-connected cells on wheels. Cells on wheels have proven useful in emergency response already during the California wildfires of 2017 and 2018. ARES is now promoting the DiFi protocol and training hams in California, Washington, Arizona, Hawaii, and Mexico. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Ralph Squillaci, KK6ITB.
And New England Ham's battle to put up radio towers is over at last, and he can start construction.
Zach Manganello, K1ZK, may well consider himself the recipient of a towering victory in every sense of those words. The longtime amateur spent the greater part of 2020 defending his proposal to install 2 radio towers on his property in the rural part of Vermont. Last summer, neighbors objected to his original proposal for the 84-foot towers, saying they were too high and were damaging to their views. Zach downsized his plans and tried again. He even conducted visual impact tests floating a balloon to simulate the height of the tower to ensure neighbors' views would remain unaffected. This month, the Telecommunications Review Board of the town of Shelburne granted Zach the right to go ahead with 2 towers, one at 40 feet and the other at 60 feet, both supported by guy wires. The local board decided to give its support to Zach's tower project after being convinced that having backup emergency communications in the neighborhood was a local asset. The panel was impressed as well all by Zach's willingness to share the educational aspects of amateur radio with the greater community. All this came as the hoped-for good news for Zach, a lifetime radio enthusiast since his childhood in Maine and a ham since the age of 14. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Kent Peterson, KC0DGY.
If you know a young radio amateur who can't wait for camp season, have we got some good news for you.
Organizers have affirmed their commitment to hosting this year's Youth on the Air camp, even as campers from across the Americas who were accepted into last year's canceled camp are completing priority registration now. The camp is scheduled to be open in Ohio from July 11th to the 16th with COVID-19 safety restrictions in place. Camp Director Neil Rapp, WB9VPG, said in an announcement that a final decision will be made in April about whether the camp must be postponed for another year. In the meantime, applications will be accepted in March for any prospective campers who were not a part of last year's group. The camp will host a maximum of 30 youngsters. Neil wrote, quote, "We are truly hopeful that we can proceed with the camp this summer. We have some exciting plans. We are also looking at an operating event in the summer. Stay tuned," end quote. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Jack Parker, W8ISH.
Finally this week, the nominating period for the 2021 Newsline Bill Pasternak WA6ITF Young Ham of the Year Award is now open. You'll find the nominating form and all information on our website, arnewsline.org. The presentation will take place at the Huntsville Hamfest in August. More information on the Huntsville Hamfest can be found at hamfest.org. And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news for 4 decades and counting at arnewsline.org. With Ralph Squillaci, KK6ITB, Kent Peterson, KC0DGY, Neil Rapp, WB9VPG, Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, and our news team across the globe. I'm Don Wellbanks, AE5DW, 7-3. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation. Amateur Radio Newsline Report number 2262 with a release date of Friday, March 5th, 2021 follows in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The following is a QST. Wyoming students finally get their space QSOs. A solar panel promises more energy for Earth, and a new video tells the story of a classic broadcast transmitter's rescue. All this and more as Amateur Radio Newsline Report number 2262 comes your way right now.
From around the world, this is Newsline, Amateur Radio's independent, weekly amateur radio news and bulletin service. Now reporting from Picayune, Mississippi, here is Don Wilbanks, AE5DW.
We begin this week with the story of a promise fulfilled. In the language of space, perseverance isn't just the name of a rover on Mars. It's a quality that paid off among students in Wyoming who, after a failed attempt in January, finally got their QSO with the International Space Station. Here's Mike Askins, KE5CXP, with the details.
Students at Wyoming's Newcastle High School were flying high, at least in spirit, on Monday, March 1st. Their amateur radio contact with ISS Commander Mike Hopkins, KF5LJG, was a success at last after their first try failed as a result of technical troubles with the U.S. astronauts' radio. With that radio down for repairs, the QSO took place via the Russians' 2-meter rig instead, and the students' questions rolled in fast, making the most of their precious 10-minute window for contact. After hearing how bok choy and mustard is grown in space, how astronauts gently toss a football around for amusement, and how a microgravity environment can cause fluid in the ears, the students wrapped things up by saying 73. The contact, accomplished with the help of a multi-point telebridge network, was a triumph for the high school as much as the ARIS program. It marked the first time in the ARIS program's 20-year history that it has organized a QSO with students in Wyoming. To hear the QSO, visit the YouTube site that appears in the printed version of this week's script. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Mike Askins, KE5CXP.
In the meantime, ARIS Chair Frank Bauer, KA3HDO, announced that efforts were underway to identify the issue that caused the radio to fail in January, and a team is working with NASA and the European Space Agency on a solution. Meanwhile, big things have been happening outside the ISS, too. Paul Brown, WD9GCO, picks up the story from here.
For 2 amateur radio operators aboard the International Space Station, it was their moment in the sun, literally. NASA flight engineers Kate Rubins, KG5FYJ, and Victor Glover, KI5BKC, took the first moves towards a power upgrade for the space station during a 7-hour and 4-minute spacewalk to outfit the new solar arrays with modification kits. If the view for observers was a little more spectacular than usual, consider that Rubin's helmet held a high-definition video camera for the first time and was streaming the action live. Videos had been taken previously using a helmet cam, of course, but only with standard definition. NASA was quick to point out that the present solar arrays on the ISS are working fine, but they are degrading and approaching the end of their useful life. The spacewalk was designed to prepare for the installation of new solar arrays, which are expected to be sent to the ISS aboard a SpaceX vehicle starting in June. Meanwhile, there is still work to be done. NASA officials said that the upgrade is to be completed by Friday, March 5th, with Rubins returning accompanied by another amateur radio operator, Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Soichi Noguchi, KD5-TVP. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Paul Brown, WD9GCO.
In the UK, the telecommunications regulator recently delivered a rapid response to a report of radio interference. But this wasn't exactly an amateur radio crisis. Jeremy Boot, G4NJH, explains.
It took barely half an hour for Ofcom, the telecommunications regulator in the UK, to respond swiftly to an urgent report of widespread RF interference, calling it a high-priority case. Even the local police got involved and awaited the arrival of a spectrum engineer dispatched from Ofcom's Spectrum Management Centre, which operates around the clock. The crisis at hand wasn't jam signals reported by radio operators, but the failure of shoppers at a Hertfordshire superstore to use their key fobs to unlock their vehicles in the car park. Because the key fobs use radio spectrum at very low power, they're subject to interference issues in the same way as other radio equipment. Using a spectrum analyzer, the engineer was unable to pinpoint the source of the interference, which could have been simply light bulbs or a malfunctioning doorbell. The situation had already resolved itself by the time he arrived. Hams in the UK should report any and all interference to Ofcom via the web address given in the text version of this report at arnewsline.org, even if their vehicle's key fob is working fine. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Jeremy Boot, G4NJH.
Imagine getting a QSL card from Pluto. Thousands did. Well, okay, it wasn't really Pluto. It was the next best thing, a special event station celebrating Pluto. Here's Randy Sly, W4XJ, with the details.
Amateur radio operators from around this world recently celebrated the discovery of another world, Pluto, which was first seen in 1930 by astronomer Clyde Tombaugh. Special event station W7P, with P for Pluto, was activated last month by the Northern Arizona DX Association for the Pluto Anniversary Countdown Special Event. There will be an event counting down each of the next 10 years, ending with the centennial year 2030. This was a particularly special event for Doug Tombaugh, N3PDT, nephew of the astronomer who made the discovery. Doug marked the occasion by operating, along with 3 other amateurs, as W7P/0, logging 1,191 contacts. He said he especially enjoyed talking with other amateurs who knew his uncle or were involved in other activities related to Pluto. Countdown coordinator Bob Wirtz, NF7E, said in all, 15 amateurs logged more than 7,000 contacts from their home QTHs as well as from a communications trailer on the grounds of Lowell Observatory where Clyde first made his discovery. The countdown begins again next year on February 12th, the last Saturday before the February 18th anniversary itself. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Randy Sly, W4XJ.
Now here's a story that should energize you. A ham radio operator has helped develop a way to bring more of the sun's power home to Earth. Kent Peterson, KC0DGY, sheds light on this one.
Amateur radio ingenuity has helped lead to the development of a prototype solar panel designed to transmit electricity to Earth from outer space. Launched in May of 2020 aboard a Pentagon drone, the device is known as the Photovoltaic Direct Current to Radio Frequency Antenna Module, or PRAM for short. Project co-developer Paul Jaffe, KJ4IKI, said in a recent CNN report that the PRAM underwent a successful test recently by the United States Department of Defense at the U.S. Naval Research Laboratory. He said the pram produces about 10 watts of energy for transmission, but could be scaled up, bringing the promise of transmitting energy to the power grids back home on Earth. The panel uses the blue waves of light in space, which become diffused when entering the Earth's atmosphere. It captures these waves, which are more powerful than sunlight on Earth, and retains that energy. No, the pram hasn't yet sent any of that power back home, but scientists say the tests have shown it works. The concept is to beam microwaves to Earth for conversion into electricity wherever it is needed. Paul told CNN the next move would be to expand its ability to collect even more sunlight to prepare it for that microwave transportation back to Earth. Team co-leader Chris DePuma told CNN the technology would be especially useful in regions where natural disasters have taken down the power grid. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Kent Peterson, KC0DGY.
If you're one of those amateur radio operators who likes to get on the air from the air as a pilot, this next story from Andy Morrison, K9AWM, might have you in mind.
Dan Heilman, W05WO, is a ham with a high-flying idea. A former airline pilot turned middle school teacher has another project on the runway. He's planning to start a podcast this summer devoted to hams who enjoy being in the air as much as they like to be on the air. He'd like to bring hams on board for rag chews about fly-ins, de-expeditions, FAA flight safety tips, and projects that combine being a pilot and an amateur radio operator. He's especially interested in stories of famous and not so famous hams in the sky. He told Newsline in an email that the podcast is, quote, just a fun way to connect already connected hobbies, end quote, and he can't guarantee there won't be more than a few corny jokes along the way. He said he hopes the half-hour, bi-weekly podcast will inspire youngsters to think about flying and radio as two related hobbies. He's working with a ham radio friend who's a former Air Force pilot, and together they're hoping to, well, get things off the ground. Dan welcomes any and all ideas. You can reach him via email at flyinghams78@gmail.com. Who knows what ideas might just take wing? For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Andy Morrison, K9AWM.
Time for you to identify your station. We are the Amateur Radio Newsline, heard on bulletin stations around the world, including the WA2EHL repeater in Burlington, New Jersey, Fridays at 7 p.m. local time. Hams in South Africa are partnering with hams in Kenya to help that nation's newest amateurs. Jim Meechan, ZL2BHF, brings us that story.
The Communication Authority of Kenya has approved a memorandum of understanding that will allow the South African Radio League to assist the Radio Society of Kenya by administering the technical parts of the amateur license exam. Regulator approval of the agreement was announced in late February. The memorandum outlines how the Kenyan Radio Society will continue to administer the regulations and operating procedure portions, but states that the South African group will conduct online courses for training of the Kenyan amateurs and provide the training manuals and presentation material as well. The arrangement, which had been worked out during the past 6 months, can now go forward. SARL has similar agreements in place with Namibia and Botswana. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Jim Meechan, ZL2BHF.
When it copied signals recently from 2 space probes near Mars, AMSAT Germany was listening for a special reason. Ed Durant, DD5LP, explains.
AMSAT DL, which has a long-term goal to launch a space probe to Mars, has been listening meanwhile to probes from China and the Emirates that are in orbit around the planet. Using the Bochum University dish at Sternwarte Bochum Institute, the German AMSAT organization has copied signals from Tianwen-1 and EMM-HO, both of which are transmitting on 8.4 GHz. AMSAT DL makes use of the dish on a regular basis to receive transmission from the NASA and NOAA weather satellites. Built in 1965 to provide ground support for the Apollo missions, the dish was renovated in 2003 with the help of amateur radio operators who added phased locked receivers in the 2.3 GHz, 5.8 GHz and 10.4 GHz amateur bands, along with the 8.4 GHz receiver. The dish also has an S-band 2.4 GHz amateur transmitter with 250 watts PEP output. The dish, which is 20 meters or 65.6 feet in diameter, copied signals from Voyager 1 in 2006. AMSAT Germany's plan for a probe of its own dates back to 2002, when preparations began for a way to circle Mars, conduct experiments, and leave a payload on the planet's surface. Scientists hope that the German P5A probe will be capable of transmitting on amateur radio frequencies receivable on Earth using a 2 to 3 meter parabolic antenna. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Ed Durant, DD5LP.
Hams in Brazil have challenged the nation's regulator, saying its lack of response is keeping hams off the air. Jeremy Boot, G4NJH, has this one.
Brazil's amateur radio society Labre has told the nation's communications regulator Anatel that problems communicating with them and their website have been standing in the way of many who wish to operate legally on the ham bands. In a letter dated the 23rd of February, the radio organisation Labre acknowledged that the recent introduction of online licence testing had eased some of the difficulties in getting on the air, but hams are now thwarted by the bureaucracy they face in order to complete the process. The letter cited excessive days waiting and a lack of communication from Anatel. Labre said that these difficulties have been reported by newly licensed amateurs as well as those qualifying for upgrades. In a report of the letter which appeared on Southgate Amateur Radio News, there had been no immediate response from the Brazilian regulator. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Jeremy Boot, G4NJH.
It's time to think about Amateur Radio Camp, and the application period is now open for young hams throughout North, Central, and South America. The Youth on the Air Camp will take place from July 11th through July 16th at the National Voice of America Museum in Westchester, Ohio, and will welcome as many as 30 campers aged 15 through 25. Scholarships are available for those who cannot afford the $100 camp fee. The window to apply closes on March 21st at 2359 UTC. For details or to download a brochure, visit youthontheair.org. Organizers will announce in April whether the camp needs to be rescheduled in response to COVID-19 restrictions, but for now, plans are going forward. Speaking of young hams, we've opened the nomination period for our annual Bill Pasternak WA6ITF Memorial Amateur Radio Newsline Young Ham of the Year Award. Think of a young radio amateur whose commitment to the community and whose enthusiasm for radio has inspired you and others, and submit their name. Nominees must be 18 or younger, living in the United States, its possessions, or any Canadian province. Downloadable nomination forms can be found on our website, arnewsline.org. In the world of DX, be listening for special event station GB2CR in Scotland until the 18th of March. The special call sign suffix CR stands for Collins Radio, and the operators will be using vintage valve/tube radio equipment manufactured in the U.S. by Collins. Be listening on 80 through 10 meters, mostly SSB with some CW. All QSOs will be uploaded to ClubLog. Be listening for Bill, K9HZ, Kyle, WA4PGM, and Dan, W0CN, active as J68 Hotel Zulu, from a villa in St. Lucia until March 11th. Their activity is usually on 160 through 2 meters using CW, SSB, FT8, and EME. QSL J68 Hotel Zulu via Logbook of the World, EQSL, or direct to K9HZ. Steon, LB5SH, will be active as JW/LB5SH from the JW5E club station on Spitsbergen Island in the Norwegian archipelago of Svalbard. He's expected to be on the air between March 25th and March 28th on various HF bands using SSB and FT8. He'll also be in the CQ Worldwide WPX SSB contest on March 27th and 28th using the call sign JW2T. Send QSLs to JW/LB5SH and possibly JW2T via Logbook of the World or ClubLog. And finally, be listening for Ian, ZS6JSI, who began operating from Benin as ZS6JSI/TY in January and expects to be there for 6 months. Be listening mostly on 20 meters where he's using FT8. He also operates mobile and can be heard at times on 80, 40, and 20 meters using SSB and FT8. For details, visit his page on QRZ.com. And finally this week, if you've ever refurbished an old boat anchor, you know the challenges of adding a piece of history to your shack. No doubt you can relate to this next story about a powerful old Collins boat anchor. Ralph Squilacci, KK6ITB, tells us about a new video that chronicles its rescue and its cross-country journey several years ago.
The control room and the Collins 250,000-watt transmitters, once used by Voice of America at its Delano relay station in California, is transmitting history now instead of U.S. government broadcasts that began during World War II into the Pacific Rim and Central and South America. The transmitter, once part of Delano Relay DL8, is now part of the permanent exhibit at the Antique Wireless Association Museum in Bloomfield, New York, where its cross-country journey ended almost 6 years ago with the help of the museum, the Collins Collectors Association, and the VOA. A video moderated by Dennis Kidder, W6DQ, and recently uploaded by the museum shows the painstaking effort of the team to save the 821A-1 transmitter from the bulldozer headed its way after Voice of America halted its operations there in 2007. The team, working to do disassembly and transport on a tight deadline, consisted of Jim Stitchinger, WA3CEX, Bill Cairns, N70TQ, Rod Bloxham, N0DAS, CCA President Scott Kerr, KE1RR, and Vince Baker from the VOA, among others. This was not just Collins' most powerful transmitter for a shortwave broadcaster, it could also auto-tune within 20 seconds, helping it successfully avoid jammers seeking to silence the U.S. government's messages. Its story, however, remains unsilenced. Visitors have shared its message and its history at the Antique Wireless Museum and now in this 40-minute video uploaded to YouTube in February. A link to the video appears in the script of this week's newscast on our website, arnewsline.org. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Ralph Squilacci, KK6ITB.
With thanks to the ACMA, Amateur News Weekly, AMSAT DL, the Antique Wireless Association, the ARRL, Collins Collectors Association, CQ Magazine, CNN, David Behar, EOS, Ofcom, Ohio Penn DX Newsletter, QRZ.com, South African Radio League, Southgate Amateur Radio News, shortwaveradio.de, space.com, Ted Randall's QSO Radio Show, the Wireless Institute of Australia, WTWW Shortwave, YouTube, YOTA America's Camp, and you, our listeners. That's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline. Please send emails to our address at newsline@arnewsline.org. More information is available at Amateur Radio Newsline's only official website at arnewsline.org. So for now, with Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, and our news team worldwide, I'm Don Wellbanks, AE5DW in Picayune, Mississippi, saying 7-3. And as always, we thank you for listening. Amateur Radio Newsline is copyright 2021. All rights are reserved.